What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be showing you guys a bunch of things that the average DBD player probably doesn't know about. I did make another video similar to this a while ago, so if you haven't seen that one, it'll be the first link in the description below. Definitely go check it out. This vid did take a long time to put together, so I'd appreciate it if you would drop a sub or leave a like down below. But without further ado, let's just get right into it. This first fact I want to share with you guys is actually what inspired me to make this video, because I didn't even know about it with my 10,000 hours in this game. Everyone knows that when you fast vault a window when you're not in chase, the killer gets notified. But did you know that it actually has a range to it? So if the killer is a certain distance away from you when you make this fast vault, they actually won't get a notification? I'm not sure what the exact range of it is, but from this custom match that me and my friend went into, it seems like it's about 40 to 60 meters away. The killer won't get notified when you fast vault. So for all those Claudettes that like to hide from the killer the entire game, if you know the killer's far, don't be afraid to fast vault that window to hop on the gen and save some time. For this next one, we move to the corner pallet upstairs on the Gideon Meat Plant map. This pallet can be seen as a god pallet to a lot of killers because there's not really any play around. The killer just has to break it. This isn't always the case. If you can mind game the survivor to drop the pallet as you're going back to the other side, you can actually break this pallet from the far side as you drop down. This can save you a lot of time later because you won't have to come back to the pallet and break it from above, and also the break animation kind of happens as you're falling, so you really don't have to wait it out. This is also possible with chainsaw killers, and the cooldown for breaking the pallet is even less. Hopefully this tip can make the Gideon Meat Plant map a little more bearable for you guys as killer. Moving right along, let's talk about going against the dredge. When you see two lockers side by side, it's actually better to only lock one of them at a time instead of both at the same time. When you're playing dredge, double locker setups like this act as one locker, so you can only teleport to the one. It will force you to the locked locker every time. So it's better to only lock one at a time so that you can use the other lock at a different time in the match if you need it. If you lock both lockers at the same time, the killer can teleport to one and then just break the other lock, and then they'll have those lockers free to teleport to for the rest of the game. This next tip should help you guys out when you're playing around windows as killer, especially on killers with M2s like Huntress and Demogorgon. Let's take Huntress for example. When a survivor is running up toward a window vault, you're going to pull up a hatchet, and you want to wait till they're in the vault animation to throw it so they can't dodge it. You can actually tell if a survivor is going to vault the window before they actually vault the window, if you pay attention to their item. Once a survivor is locked into the window vault animation, their item actually disappears, even like a step or two before they vault the window. So as soon as you see that item disappear, you know that they're going to take the window, and you could throw your hatchet or shred as Demogorgon. For this next one, we're going to be talking about totems. Killers have a bunch of perks in the game that will cause these totems to become hex totems in the game, like Ruin, Devour Hope, and Noed. These totems in game can either be cleansed or blessed by survivors. Somewhat recently, they added a new hex totem called Pentimento into the game, which grants you the ability to rekindle totems that have already been cleansed for an additional benefit. There are two ways to tell the difference between a normal hex totem and a Pentimento totem. Firstly, and this one is much more simple, they just look different. The Pentimento totems are just a tint brighter than the normal hex totems, and if you play this game a lot and have a lot of hours, you'll be able to differentiate just by looking at them. And the other way is that you actually cannot bless a Pentimento totem into a boon. You can only bless a hex totem the first time. This next one, I'd be willing to bet that the majority of people don't know about. It actually has to do with the Onryo's TVs. Did you know that you could use her TVs to track survivors, much like the perk Whispers? If you see a TV in the game going through a cycle of Japanese characters and this blinking eye, this actually means that there's a survivor within 60 meters of this TV. And if you see a TV that's just all static, then there's nobody within 60 meters of the TV. The only exception would be is if a survivor is carrying a tape, then they won't set off the TV. So all the TVs near them will be showing static unless there's somebody else within the range of the TV that does not have a tape. Now let's talk about the newly reworked RPD map. More specifically, on the east wing on the helipad. Previously, there would be one pallet spawning on the helipad every single game. But with the new reworked map, you actually get two pallets that are guaranteed to spawn. There's also two ways that these pallets spawn. The first is with one pallet next to each of these little AC unit things that are on the roof, which you've probably seen many times before. And the other way, you probably only think that one pallet spawns, but there's actually a second pallet in this little back room that no one ever goes into. This pallet's actually super safe and catches a lot of killers off guard because they don't really know it's there, so a lot of times they'll just walk right into it and you can get an easy stun to make a lot of distance. Now, I mentioned in my last video about offerings how you could actually tell which survivor brings which offering in a game. If you want to figure that out, go watch the last video, link in description. But this time I want to touch on something else about offerings. Right off the bat, I want to say this might be a thing of the past. I'm still not sure if offerings are bugged, but ever since the 7th anniversary event, the backs of every single offering have been the same, but you used to be able to tell the difference on which offering was which just based off the back before they flip over. Offerings that had like the white background were offerings that only affect survivors, like blood point offerings, luck offerings, and bound envelopes. The offerings that had the black back were obviously the ones that only affect the killer. We all know the infamous Mori that never flips over, we've all seen it. And the offerings that have kind of the transparent back are the ones that affect everyone in the trial, which would go with map offerings, mist offerings, or bloody party streamers. Now, like I said, ever since the 7th anniversary event, there's been a bug where all the backs of the offerings are the same. They're all just transparent, and I'm still not sure if this is intended or a bug, so maybe one day we'll see the backs of the offerings come back. Next up, let's talk a little bit about twins. Let me give you guys some advice for the once a month you go against this killer. If you're ever looping a pallet and Charlotte calls out Victor while she's standing in the pallet, you can actually stun her dormant body, which will pull her out of Victor and force her back into Charlotte, and then you can just kick Victor real quick. Make sure to use those 6 seconds wisely before Victor respawns and you have to do it all again. Also, some people don't know that you actually can blind Victor with a flashlight. It's super hard to do because Victor likes to turn away, but if you get a blind off on Victor, you basically just win the game at that point. This next one I have for you guys has to do with a bug that's been in the game since the last patch that most of you have probably seen. The bug is that you can click your flashlight and spin while you're being healed by another survivor. It's just super goofy, has really no effect on the game. But what I actually found out recently is that this same effect happens while you're dying to endgame collapse. While you're in the dying animation, you can click your flashlight. And to take this one step further, we also found out recently that you can actually blind the killer while you're being healed and while you're dying to endgame collapse. This creates the possibility for some absolutely insane clips for people. Hitting flashlight saves while being healed would be absolutely insane, especially since the beam doesn't even come out. It's like an invisible beam while you're being healed. Hopefully some of y'all can use this and hit some absolutely insane clips. And when you do, send them to me because I want to see them. A lot of the new meta recently in Dead by Daylight has revolved around endurance perks. You have the new Dead Hard, which puts you into the men's state. Off the Record will also put you into the deep wound. And of course, base kit borrowed time. The fact that I want to share here has to do with Deathslinger and Legion and their add-ons. So Legion has an add-on called the Filthy Blade, which increases the survivor's mend time when they frenzy. And the Deathslinger has the Barbed Wire add-on, which has the same effect. Did you guys know that if a Legion or a Deathslinger runs this add-on, every single mend in the game, whether it be from the power of the killer, from a Dead Hard, from borrowed time, or off the record, every single mend will be increased by the time of the add-on. It's worth mentioning that it only works for the mend time add-ons, so it's not going to work for add-ons like the Legion Pin or Deathslinger's Rusted Spike, which affect Mangled. It only works for mend time. Now this next fact I'm pretty sure is a bug, but I might as well include it anyway since it's a cool little fun fact. The perk Hex Undying states that the auras of survivors within 4 meters of any dull totem are revealed to you. Now this works like normal all the time. You can see survivors' auras that are near dull totems, and it doesn't work with hex totems. But when you're running the perk Hex Pentimento and a dull totem gets cleansed, you will still be able to see survivors' auras within 4 meters of the cleansed totem. I guess this has to do with Pentimento and the totem being able to be brought back to life. I should also say that once you rekindle the totem into a Pentimento totem, you'll completely lose all the aura reading for the rest of the game, around this one totem, obviously. It's basically just free aura reading around a pile of bones on the floor. This final fact I want to share with you guys is a mini Easter egg on some maps. On almost every map in the game, there is a hidden golden toolbox somewhere. Most of you may have seen the most obvious one, which was on the old Haddonfield before it got reworked, and it was just under the picnic table, super bright, super obvious. But with the exception of just a few, every map has a golden toolbox hidden somewhere. I'm just going to show you guys a few, because I don't have time to show every single map in the game. The Auto Haven toolbox can only be found on Gas Heaven, and it's located in the stack of cars kind of hidden in between down under. The toolbox on the Macmillan maps is located in the Groaning Storehouse map in the main building, kind of behind one of these pallets of boxes that are kind of racked up on the shelf. Moving over to the Coldwind Farm, you're going to have to go onto the map Fractured Cowshed. This toolbox is kind of hard to see, but it's all the way up top in the rafters of the barn. In the Crotus Pren Asylum realm, you're going to have to head over to the Father Campbell's Chapel map, and this toolbox is located in the Wheel of the Carriage, kind of in the carnival area of the map. Moving over to the red forest, you're going to have to head on to Mother's Dwelling. This toolbox is right in the middle of the circle of tall rocks on the map. Now, most of this toolbox is buried underground, but you actually can see the very top of it kind of hidden in the grass. Next, we head over to the swamp on the Pale Rose. If you head to the main building and look under one of the ramps up to the second floor, you'll find the toolbox hidden underneath some floorboards. The last one I'll show you guys is on Dead Dog Saloon, and it's actually located up inside of the water tower. Now, this toolbox is a little different than the rest. For the most of the game, it's going to be at the bottom of the barrel inside of this water tower, but for a very short period of time at the start of the match, it'll actually float up, and when it does, that is the only time it's visible through the cracks of the water tower. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to comment down below if you learned anything new with any of these secrets. I just want to give a quick shout out to my homie June for helping me with some of these clips. He just started uploading to his YouTube consistently, so if you want more content similar to mine, go subscribe to him. His link will be down in the description below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.